Smarter Markets is back at the FIA Global Cleared Markets Conference in Boca Raton, and I'm joined by Walt Lukken, President and CEO of the FIA. How are you doing, Walt?
Great, Dave. How are you?
Doing fantastic. It was great to see your opening of the conference yesterday, where you were really setting the agenda and raising the opportunities and the challenges the industry faces in the year ahead, and brought up how we need to face it in the spirit of your Indiana Hoosiers. So I was hoping for our audience, you could just tell us a little bit about, how do you see the year ahead shaping up and how do you want the industry to approach it?
Well, we're facing incredible innovation that's happening in our industry. And so sometimes that can feel overwhelming, as we think about change and how our industry copes with that change. And so yesterday's speech was about getting back to first principles of what markets do. I used the metaphor of Indiana's national championship and how Coach Signetti brought in trust, fairness, and integrity to his team that helped to build a winning formula, and that those apply equally to markets. Markets need trust, they need fairness, they need financial integrity in order to survive. So as we face things like prediction markets, crypto, all these new models and market structure they're developing, those first principles are incredibly important. So we tried to set the theme for the conference, and it's nice because you start to hear that theme reflected back throughout the panels, and today's going to be another excellent event.
Looking forward to it. And, as you said, there's been so much innovation to talk about. There's, the move to 24/7. There's, prediction markets. There's tokenization and the convergence between decentralized finance and traditional. When you look at the state of the conversation, is there a gap between kind of the conversation on the stage and the operational reality? And how do we start to close that? Where are we in this process, do you think?
Well, I think certainly people are aware that there are things that need to get addressed, especially 24/7 as the markets start to innovate quickly. And we have to close the gap because a lot of markets are thinking through on the execution side, but not necessarily on the back office side of how we make sure the markets stay safe after a trade is executed. So that was the point of our paper that we put out last week. Is it's going to happen. It's innovative. It's brought on by customer demand. But with that, there is a need for responsible innovation to making sure that the clearing system keeps pace with 24/7. The payment rails keep pace with that. And so there's some wood to chop there for the industry, but the issues have been identified. It's a solvable problem. And I think we're having a roundtable today on that topic to try to see, what is the low-hanging fruit where we can start to advance that issue.
And I like that phrase, responsible innovation. And, being around the conference, bringing in people from so many different backgrounds, so many different types of companies. Where do you see the state of how everyone's working together and learning to understand each other's languages and understand each other's responsibilities to the markets?
Well, what I love about Boca is it creates this magical ecosystem where people come and you learn things from others. Like every time I come each year, I learn something new. And yesterday, I learned about Prop AMM, automated market making, that is a new phenomenon in AI in our world. So there's all these things that are happening. So, you bring this international petri dish together and sometimes the magic happens. So, we try to set out the framework for, solutions to start to be talked about and to germinate. But you never quite know where it's going to go. So once we create the ecosystem, we sort of stand back and let the magic happen.
And I also wanted to ask you, you had the CFTC chairman here yesterday. There's been a lot of innovation on the regulatory side as well. So kind of going back to your CFTC days, how do you see regulators embracing and engaging with the markets today?
Well, I think it has to happen. I mean, I think the pace of change in technology could leapfrog the regulatory system if we're not careful. We have been in a super cycle of regulatory rules since Dodd-Frank. I think, yesterday, Chairman Selig laid out what the vision is to, how do we you know, fit for purpose regulations moving forward. And so he laid out a vision of things he's looking at, things to remove duplicative regulations. How do we make it better for new markets that are coming online? So I thought it was an important speech, a lot of details in there for us to read. But I think the regulators are starting to understand that if they don't engage, if they don't start to make these changes, that the markets will move on without them.
And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but if you look ahead to next year,
Yeah.
when we're all back here for the 52nd annual Boca conference, what would you like to have seen the industry accomplish over the coming year?
Well, I laid out in my speech there is some need for clarity in certain areas in the United States, in particular. It's digital assets, getting a regulatory framework around that important and growing asset class. So I hope Congress can achieve that in the spring of this year, and to start to implement those rules going into next year. I think prediction markets, the out there phenomena we're seeing, and they're in full force down here. The prediction markets, making sure there's legal clarity there. These are new markets, exciting markets, things that I actually care about. When I was CFTC chair back in 2008, we did a rulemaking on prediction markets when they were just in their nascent state. But I think we need some clarity about what is insider trading, how they work around rule certifications and product certifications. So that's important. So we'd like to see those two areas clarified over the next 12 months.
Well, thank you so much, Walt. I know you've got another busy day here at Boca, so thanks for making time for us.
Thanks, Dave.